Hello, my beautiful lady gardens. Put the kettle on, grab a seat and settle in. This is High Tea with Lady V. Let's go. On our journey back through the archives, I wanted us to recap on hormones. Before I barrage you with all this new and fun information, it's really awesome information, we had to recap on how absolutely awesome hormones are, especially for those of us who are gracefully moving seasons, let's say. Enjoy the recap of the hormone episode, ladies. Hey, it's me again, and I've decided to re-record the Hormone Podcast. Why? Because the first episode had too much science and not enough fucks. My purpose is to make science simple, and if I'm not doing that, then I'm moving away from my why. I'm still going to make the other one available on YouTube, but for the moment, let's focus on this one because it's way more fun. Of course, I have to talk a little science, as what would be our knowledge without it? One big freaking hot mess. That's what it would be. Actually, come to think of it, isn't that what it already is? So let's talk about that big freaking hot mess. That hot mess that is hormones. So, Lady Gardens, this is the hormone summary. Lesson 102 in Lady Garden Horticulture, freaking hormones, HRT, dementia, cardiovascular disease, metabolic disease, bone loss, osteoporosis, perimenopausal psychosis. You are welcome. Welcome to the Hormone Power Session. Let's upskill. We are going to be touching on cells. I know, freaking biology, it'll be quick. You'll understand why. We are going to learn about what the F hormones are, why they are important, perimenopause and menopause and that freaking crazy ride, and the diseases that come to light when we go through it. HRT and why the F it isn't a bad thing, and we'll wrap it up with a rant about the broken medical system, especially when it comes to perimenopausal women. And it's a Saturday. Currently, my husband and children literally feel they've lost me to my vagina and hormones. So get a cup of tea ready, strap on in for the hormonal power session. If you are entering the peri party of midlife or have passed it, congratulations. Your chances of dementia, cardiovascular disease, metabolic disease, bone loss, osteoporosis, perimenopausal psychosis have increased. Excellent. And this isn't just because we're aging. Why? Let's start with our cells. I know you didn't sign up for a freaking cell biology class, so I'll be quick. Foundations, ladies. Foundations. Cells are everything in our body. Our bodies are cells. There you go. Got that? I told you I'd be quick. What powers cells? The mitochondria. What does the mitochondria do? Essentially, it turns food into energy to power our cells. What do the mitochondria need? Hormones. Every organ in our body has receptors for estrogen. Let that sink in, especially when you are facing having little to none for the rest of your life. Am I scaring you yet? So the loss of estrogen may be turning our cells against us, and this is only the 1-minute opener. I know. What the F is to come, ladies? Perimenopause. That's what's to come. And this can last 10 to 15 years. And then you go through menopause, which is just defined as 1 day, 12 months after your last period. And then you're post-menopause. And these symptoms again can last 10 to 15 years. So for about 1/3 of our lives, we can feel really freaking messed up. And yet this period of a woman's life has been under-researched, under-acknowledged, underfunded, and very much misunderstood. So in a nutshell, we have 30 to 40 years of no real understanding of what the heck is going on with our bodies. We just wing it from, say, 11 to 12. And then we have another 10 to 15 years of manic hormones, feelings of despair as we lose our monthly friends, the friend we didn't want in the first place, but now we don't want to lose. And then we've got another 10 to 15 years after that, post-menopause. So why do we lose estrogen? And what the F is estrogen? So there are 3 types of estrogen: estradiol, estriol, and we've got estrone. Just to confuse us even more, estradiol is the superstar of estrogen. Estradiol is the primary form of estrogen made by our ovaries in our reproductive prime. These hormones are chemically identical to the ones your body makes. Think of it as the Beyonce. No, actually, it's the Taylor of hormones. When people are talking about estrogen, they are generally talking about estradiol. And why do we lose it? It's produced in the ovaries, and when those ovaries run out, our estradiol fucks off, leaving us literally a big, hot, freaking mess. Next, we have estriol. This one is the pregnancy superstar. Estriol is mainly made by the placenta during pregnancy. I'm guessing you're not making any of that now. And we've got estrone. Freaking estrone. It could be the reason we are growing muffin tops, ladies. When your ovaries start cutting back on the estriol production, the adrenal glands decide to freaking get involved. They release a substance that your fat tissue turns into estrone, and it becomes the most prominent form of estrogen after menopause. It helps with some bone maintenance and tissue repair, but it is no estradiol. And now this is where things get interesting. There is some chatter that the increased visceral fat that we get, which is around our belly, generally, could be linked to this very process. The theory is that your adrenal glands release more of the substance for your fat to turn into estrone, which begs the question, are we really freaking growing muffin top just to make sure we have enough estrone in our system? And then we've got progesterone. It's a hormone produced by the ovaries that helps regulate the menstrual cycle and plays a crucial role in preparing the body for pregnancy. It works in tandem with estrogen to maintain a balance in the reproductive system. When it starts to decline, our chances of endometrial hyperplasia increase and our uterine lining may thicken, which may lead to serious issues like endometrial cancer. As progesterone's there not keeping estrogen in check. So basically, progesterone's job is to keep estrogen from going on a rampage. It's like estrogen's bestie. They work together to keep everything running smoothly in the reproductive system. And then there is testosterone. Wait, isn't that a man's hormone? No, turns out we need it too. Testosterone's got your back when it comes to energy, libido, muscle mass, and bone density. Testosterone is produced by the ovaries, adrenal glands, and peripheral tissue. It helps to convert estriol. That magic transformation is key for both bone health and keeping your mood from doing backflips. So when your testosterone dips, it's like a domino effect that also messes with your estrogen levels. And what happens when these hormones start to decline? Our freaking chances of dementia, cardiovascular disease, metabolic disease, bone disorder, osteoporosis, perimenopausal psychosis increase by like 30%. And ladies, this brings us to the peri party, perimenopause and menopause. And the symptom list is longer than our kids' Christmas list to Santa. Periods might come and go like an unreliable friend, sometimes heavier, sometimes lighter. They're gone for a while and then surprise, they show up 6 months later. Mood changes. Your mood can turn into a circus. Irritability, check. Anxiousness, oh yeah. Feeling like you can throw a tantrum, abso-freaking-lutely. Sleep disturbances, thanks to the low progesterone. Insomnia, yep, that is now a thing. I had progesterone the other night and I called my girlfriend and I said, fuck, I had forgotten what it was like to sleep. How freaking good is sleep? Then we have increased risk of endometrial hyperplasia without progesterone keeping it in check. Then we've got acid reflux. Acne. It turns out breakouts are just as much a part of perimenopause as menopause. However, we just need a magnifying glass to pop them. But don't pop them. You don't want scarring, especially on older skin, not at our age. Trust me. We've also got alcohol intolerance, anxiety, joint pain, arthritis, asthma, autoimmune diseases. How many of you have gone to the doctors with sore joints and they're testing you for rheumatoid arthritis and a list of other things and they can't find anything wrong? perimenopause. Bloating, body composition changes and belly fat. Is that the body trying to make estrogen by growing a freaking muffin top? Brain fog. Who else is forgetting major things at work? Like, what's the name of that thing? That thing. Can you pass me that thing over there? It's a freaking pair of scissors. Brittle nails, breast tenderness, burning sensation of the mouth and tongue, chronic fatigue syndrome. Who the freaking hell is tired? Hands up. Crawling skin sensation, decreased desire for sex. This is definitely it's a not you, it's me scenario. So husbands, listen up. Dental problems, depression, difficulty concentrating, dizzy spells, vertigo, dry or itchy eyes, dry mouth, dry skin. I see this in the clinic all the time. Eczema, electric shock sensation, genital urinary symptoms. I mean, what the F does that mean? Basically everything in your pelvis. High cholesterol. I was at a talk recently and Michelle Bridges, one of Australia's leading fitness figures, says she's suffering from high cholesterol. She shouldn't get high cholesterol. Look at her. She's a health machine. Hot flushes, incontinence. Have a think about this, ladies. If you are still getting your period or you're finding the week before your period, you are needing to pee every 5 seconds and dashing with urgency to the toilet. I know I am. This is because our estrogen generally tanks the week before your period. And now that you're 40 plus, it's decreasing more than it used to when you were younger. And your genitourinary system and everything in your pelvis, it freaking loves estrogen. So it tanks too. Insulin resistant. This can lead to a whole range of metabolic disorders, kidney stones, memory issues. I am constantly walking aimlessly around my house. By the time I've gotten to one end, I'm walking back trying to figure out why the heck I'm in the laundry and not the bedroom. Mental health disorders. Our risk of suicide increases. Considering for women, our risk of suicide increases in our teens, post-pregnancy, and then again at the age of 40 to 55, I'm seeing a pretty big correlation here with hormones. Did you know that post-pregnancy, your body goes through a mini menopause and your estrogen crashes, which allows us to breastfeed? There is mounting evidence to suggest that the fluctuations in estrogen can significantly influence the risk of depression. Think postpartum depression. And there's perimenopausal psychosis, migraine, mood changes, muscle aches, night sweats, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, osteoporosis, pain with intercourse, again the loss of estrogen, the skin in our vagina becomes drier and thinner, muscle loss, sleep apnea, sleep disturbances. Who the F keeps waking up at 2 a.m.? Progesterone, please. Thinning hair, thinning skin, tendinitis, ringing in the ears, TMJ, lockjaw, unwanted hair growth, urinary tract infections, and this is big. 7% of sepsis arises from UTI, and 270,000 people die from sepsis in America and 8,700 in Australia, which is more than stroke and road accidents. Did you know that vaginal estrogen has more than an 80% success rate in preventing recurring UTIs? But let's give low-dose antibiotics. We will hear about one of my friend's scares with UTIs and sepsis in upcoming episodes. Vaginal dryness, vertigo, weight gain, wrinkles, jowls, and saggy skin. And these pesky changes sneak the F up on us, and we find ourselves thinking, did I get this in my 30s? Hormones really are the life force of our existence, and when they're out of whack, sure do we know about it. And what does the medical system do to treat these ailments? Not much. They're only just working out that they're all related to perimenopause and menopause. Yet, imagine if a man was told at 52 his penis would drop off and sex was no longer a thing. It would be a pandemic. COVID all over again. Every scientist around the world would be recruited and billions spent, and then there would be a pill for it. I can't claim that analogy as my own. Thank you to my kindred spirit, Kelly Casterton. She just doesn't know that we're kindred spirits yet. And maybe I'm being a little stalky. I digress. But we are expected to suffer. It's normal. It's all in our head. You're too young for perimenopause. And what's even more shocking, when we go to find answers, we are met with a medical system that's letting us down. Recently, a friend of mine who was experiencing night sweats and sleeplessness was told by her GP that she was too young to be perimenopausal. What the F? She's freaking 48. You can start experiencing perimenopausal symptoms at 35, and the average age of menopause is 52. She's 4 years off the average age, and yet the perimenopausal journey can last 7 to 15 years prior to menopause. And menopause is just one day, 12 months after your last period, and then you're post-menopausal. And her GP is telling her she's not perimenopausal. What the F? Just take into consideration egg cell count, for example. On average, at the age of 30, we have 10% of our egg count left. At 40, that's 4%. Our bodies are on a hormone downward trajectory. How is the medical system so misinformed, and why? Honestly, why does this all matter? Well, picture this. And for some of us, we don't need to picture this because we've probably lived it. We go to the doctor. We've got frozen shoulder or joint pain, and we walk away with cortisone injections and pain relief. We're also anxious, so now we have anti-anxiety medications. We're bouncing between high and low mood, so here's some antidepressants. And our cholesterol's up, so here's some statins. Unexplained itchy skin, weird tingling, here's a referral to a dermatologist and a neurologist. Plus, a note, take some magnesium. And for the heart palpitations, here's a referral to a cardiologist. So we've gone to the doctor for frozen shoulder or sore joints, and we're walking away with cortisone injections, 3 scripts of medications, 3 referrals to a specialist, and a suggestion for supplements. But what about all the doctors that are alleging supplements don't work? It's a shitstorm. And we can't remember what the doctor said because our brains are now mush, as we've convinced ourselves we have early fucking onset Alzheimer's. And let's explore that. Estrogen plays a crucial role in brain health. It's neuroprotective, meaning it keeps your brain sharp. Estrogen helps to support brain plasticity, boosts memory, and helps fight off inflammation. But when estrogen drops, we might notice our brain function starts to check the F out. Poof! Suddenly, we're not remembering where we parked the freaking car. Women are twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's than men, which has long been attributed to the fact that women live longer than men, and the Alzheimer's risk increases as we age. But emerging research has found that the dramatic change in hormones that we are experiencing during perimenopausal transition, especially the loss of estrogen, can increase neuroinflammation. This also could be the reason as to why we are disproportionately affected by other cognitive-related diseases and disorders, such as MS, autoimmune diseases, migraines, and major depressive disorder. And get this, some studies are indicating that hormone replacement therapy soon after menopause may reduce the risk of developing dementia and Alzheimer's. One study found that starting estrogen therapy within 10 years of menopause was associated with a 32% reduction in dementia risk. 32%! How is that not big freaking news? And let's mention the APO4 gene. The APO4 gene is one of the strongest genetic factors for Alzheimer's. Individuals who inherit one copy of the APO4 gene from one parent have an increased risk of Alzheimer's, and those who inherit 2 from one parent, they have an even greater increase of Alzheimer's and dementia. Research is suggesting that estrogen may offer protection against the damage caused by the APO4 gene, and it may play a significant role in reducing the buildup of amyloid plaque, and it may also protect brain cells from degeneration. This is really important for me, as I carry one of the APO4 genes, and if you've listened to my previous podcast, you'll know that my mother, who is only 75, is in a home with dementia. And it does make me think, had she not been told that HRT caused cancer, and had she decided to go down the route of HRT, would she be in a very different place right now? It's pretty sad to think that something so simple could have had such a profound effect on the rest of her life. It angers me that the misinformation that was published all those years ago caused so much harm. I know for a fact that my mother struggled through menopause. It was right after menopause that she started to feel something wasn't cognitively right. She also never explored HRT because she believed it caused breast cancer. And it is so sad to think that she declined a treatment for something she wasn't at risk for, yet it could have helped her with a disease that she was at risk for. She had always worried about dementia, and this may have been a game changer for her and many women like her. Losing a parent is heartbreaking. Losing a parent to dementia, it's freaking soul destroying. If I can avoid my children and my husband going through what I'm going through, what my family is going through, what my father is going through, I would do anything in my power to make this happen. If you are interested in this topic, definitely check out Dr. Lisa Mosconi's book, The Menopausal Brain and the XX Brain, the groundbreaking science empowering women to maximize cognitive health and prevent Alzheimer's disease. Or listen to one of the many podcasts she's been featured on. And stay tuned. My goal is to definitely interview her here. But wait, doesn't HRT cause breast cancer? Let's touch on that quickly, as that study made headlines, but the news above hasn't? No, this is taken from the book The New Menopause. In 2002, the media went wild as news broke that HRT could cause breast cancer. The study was stopped and women all over the world were denied their hormones. But for what? The study is fraught with misinterpretation. It reported that the increase of breast cancer for women taking HRT was 25%. But how did they arrive to these findings? In the study, the risk of someone developing cancer in the placebo group, the people not receiving HRT, was 4 in 1,000, whereas the risk in the group receiving progesterone and estrogen rose to 5 in 1,000. This was calculated as a relative risk increase of 25%, so from 4 in 1,000 to 5 in 1,000. However, the absolute risk of developing cancer was actually only an increase of 0.08%. There are a whole lot of other crazy issues with this study, but it doesn't really seem as scary now, does it? If you want to read up or listen more, I'll provide links in the show notes. Also, on a side note, since this study in 2002, 23 years ago, medicine has come a long way and the delivery mechanisms have changed for hormones. Think transepidermal, estrogen applied to the skin. And there's also been the introduction of bioidentical hormones. These hormones are chemically identical to the ones your body makes. And this has been a game changer in the field. It's not the same hormone or delivery route that was studied in the WHI study. In fact, it's even better now. And then the second crazy disease we are now in the firing line for is cardiovascular disease, and our risk of developing this disease increases at around the age of 55, right at the timing of menopause. And that is no coincidence. Menopause comes in like a freaking wrecking ball, raising cholesterol, LDL, and triglycerides, which are basically the VIP pass to heart disease. When progesterone takes its leave, blood vessels tighten up. The liver, confused and stressed from menopause and perimenopause, start overproducing clotting protein, and all of a sudden, we're at high risk for clots. And the endothelial cell lining of our blood vessels produce less of the hormone that helps your vascular system relax and allow for blood flow. Now, if you went through perimenopause before the age of 45, congratulations. You're now at a higher risk of heart disease, and even more fun, if you've had a surgical menopause or suffered through hot flushes and night sweats that make us feel like a walking lava lamp, our risk is even greater. And here's the kicker. Coronary artery disease doesn't throw a party until it's too late. There aren't any really obvious signs until something big happens, like a rupture or a blockage that's severe enough to block blood flow. And There isn't really any screening for it either. One of the better tests is the coronary calcium score, which is a CT scan that looks at the level of calcium buildup in our arteries, and it can help reveal the presence of coronary artery disease. And furthermore, because they never bothered testing medications on women before 1993, shocking, right? Statins, those trusty cholesterol medications that lower our cholesterol levels and reduce the risk of cardiovascular events like heart attack and stroke, don't exactly have the same life-saving superpowers in women as they do men. Some studies suggest that statins may not provide the same level of protection for women, particularly when it comes to preventing heart attacks. Go figure, we are different. So did anyone learn any of this at school? No. Ladies, we live a third of our lives post-menopause, and we may be living longer. But the real question is, do we live it better and in better health? Go to any nursing home and you'll notice that the ratio of women to men is often higher. We are living longer, but without the benefits of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, we aren't necessarily living better. And many of the women in nursing homes are suffering from this. Osteoporosis. We basically chew up and build new bone every day. The bone you were born with is not the bone you have now. And this is thanks to two cells, the osteoclast cells and the osteoblast cells. So the osteoblast cells, they break down bone or eat bone, while the osteoclast cells build and lay new bone. When we are growing, the osteoclast cells, the builders, are more prolific. They're producing more bone than the osteoblast cells are breaking down. But once we stop growing, these two cells generally work in unison until perimenopause. To put it simply, estrogen acts as a regulator for the osteoblast cells. These are the ones that eat our bone. So when estrogen starts to decline or is no longer present, those osteoblast cells, they start having an eating party. And the osteoclast cells, they can't keep up. This is why we are told at 40 to lift weights and jump. Yes, jump up and down to stimulate the production of the osteoclast cells, the builder cells. But you have to lift heavy and not to exhaustion. 4 sets, 4 reps, 3 to 4 times a week. It's paramount to maintain our strength and bone density. And go and get a bone density scan, a DEXA scan. It's crazy that women are typically encouraged to have bone density scans at around the age of 65. By that point, most of us, unless we're on HRT, have been living with little to no estrogen for 15 years. What the F? Finding out early is paramount for early intervention. You can help to change, alleviate, and even stop osteoporosis. And get this, 50% of women over the age of 65 will have bone fractures before they die. And 29% of all hip fractures in someone over the age of 65 will result in death. I am going to say that again. 29% of all hip fractures in someone over the age of 65 will result in death. Bone fractures are also not our only concern. Musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause will affect 85% of us, 85%. This includes muscular pain, joint pain, stiffness, increased ligament and tendon issues, bursitis, tendonitis, decreased muscle mass, and frozen shoulder. This is due to the inflammation that occurs when we don't have enough estrogen. Bone and muscle also helps to regulate insulin levels. And ladies, we are from the generation where the goal to be skinny. We were taught not to eat enough protein. And if we don't eat enough calories or burn too many calories without replacing them, yep, you guessed it, this will have a significant effect on bone density. Food for thought. And furthermore, we lose 20% of our bone density when we are breastfeeding. So make sure you're eating enough to replenish it if you are breastfeeding. However, if you've had babies in quick succession, especially later in life, get a scan, as your body may not have had time to fully replenish. Actually, if you're over 40, just get one. See where you sit. And yes, HRT, especially testosterone, has been found to have a significantly positive effect on muscle mass strength and bone density. Furthermore, I strongly advise you to listen to Vonda Wright. She's an orthopedic surgeon and leading speaker on the effects of perimenopause and menopause on bone health. And moving on, who can forget about our increased chance of insulin resistance? The body's cells become less responsive to insulin, leading to higher blood sugar levels. And if your blood sugar levels remain high for an extended period of time, this can lead to chronic low-grade inflammation. And I'd like to point out that insulin resistance is the first sign of metabolic dysfunction. And that is the gateway to metabolic syndrome, a group of conditions that significantly increase your chances of type 2 diabetes, coronary artery disease, and stroke. Metabolic syndrome can include elevated blood sugar levels, elevated triglycerides, low high-density lipoprotein, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. How good are declining hormones? And if you're not feeling overwhelmed yet, you're in an increased risk if you have PCOS, sleep apnea, or fatty liver disease. There's also been some research suggesting that hormone therapy may have a protective effect against insulin resistance in postmenopausal women. In fact, according to the book The New Menopause, studies have shown that women on hormone therapy have a 20% lower chance of developing type 2 diabetes when compared to those who are not using HRT. However, of course, because medicine didn't bother researching women beyond their capabilities of growing a child, more research is needed in this area to confirm these findings. And if I haven't shocked you enough yet, let's talk suicide. Yes, ladies, our chances of suicide increase during perimenopause and menopause. Women are committing suicide. Perimenopausal psychosis and depression is a thing. Our brains are wired for hormones. I wanted to share a story of a husband who lost his wife due to perimenopausal depression, who is working towards greater awareness and changes. This is from the Menopause Society charity. He said that his wife had felt that the close relationship she had had with her children had disappeared, and she struggled to feel warmth and affection. She also felt that she lacked empathy. All those traits that she now perceived were in fact the polar opposites of who she really was. They sought advice from specialist after specialist who continually fobbed off the suggestions that it might be her hormones. They diagnosed a woman with a degree from Harvard who loved her job, loved her family, loved her life prior to perimenopause with psychosis and depression. He lost her to suicide. This begs the question, when a woman is in her mid to late 40s and presents with anxiety and depression, especially when she has no prior history of mental health issues, surely the first question should be, is there a link to perimenopause? However, for years we were told it was literally all in our heads. Women were locked up in psychiatric wards, midlife mania, coming from the ovaries. There is a need for better training, support, and public awareness. It'd be interesting to see the statistics on how many psychiatrists actually know or acknowledge perimenopausal depression and psychosis as a thing. And is the treatment of hormones a consideration? Or are we just putting women on antidepressants and antipsychotic drugs? And have these medications even been studied on the brains of perimenopausal and menopausal women? Remember, we weren't even used in clinical trials until 1993. Much more needs to be done to recognize and treat the problems of changing hormones on women's mental health and well-being. Are you feeling this way, or are you noticing these symptoms in someone else around you? Please reach out for help, and reach out for someone who's qualified in perimenopause and menopause. If you're a medical practitioner, check out the Debbie Grant Foundation in the show notes. They have wonderful tools for medical practitioners wanting to upskill in this area. And they also have fabulous tools for individuals too, with links to resources and practitioners. I know for many of us, we feel helpless in the search for our former selves. And for a doctor who truly understands how we are feeling, we often leave doctors' clinics disheartened and unheard. You're too young for perimenopause. They are not actually symptoms of perimenopause. Here's a handful of pills. HRT causes breast cancer. It's all in our heads, or simply every woman goes through it, so toughen up. It leaves us disenfranchised with the medical system. So I figure after this episode, local doctors are going to be influx with informed women wanting answers. Good, because doctors need to be informed. And if they don't want to upskill in the area of treating women over the age of 35 and their health, they should be referring us to someone who does. And what's the take home here? Now that I've convinced all of us that we're in first stage cognitive decline, our heart palpitations, a cardiovascular disease, we're thirsty because we have a metabolic disorder, and we're going to have shonky bones because we can't jump to make them strong again because our pelvises are betraying us. I hope that we now know that perimenopause is not just hot flushes and night sweats, and now know that we must prioritize the prevention of osteoporosis, coronary artery disease, insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, neuroinflammation, visceral fat, loss of muscle, and perimenopausal depression and psychosis is a thing. And there can be some benefit from HRT. Whether you decide to go down HRT or another route, it's important that we are all informed with the relevant and up-to-date information so that we are equipped to make our own health decisions based on our individual risk versus benefit. And without saying, there needs to be more research on perimenopause and menopause. Get loud. Why? Because our longevity depends on it. Ladies, this will be the first time in history where a majority of the female population will be living 40 years past menopause. Women undervalue themselves. Don't believe for the next 40 years after menopause, you'll just be dying. The brain is rewiring itself. It no longer needs the energy required for reproduction. Yippee! Let's utilize this opportunity. There are some sensational stories about women creating empires, running marathons. This time is for you, but let's do it armed in good health. Until next time, my beautiful vaginas, water those lady gardens because they are worth it. And if you want any further information on the topics raised, please check out the links in the show notes. And one last thing I forgot to tell you, the later you go through menopause, the longer you are predicted to live. And why is this? Because you have estrogen for longer. You're welcome. Let's not forget the legals. Please note that this podcast is for entertainment purposes and informational purposes only. The content shared is not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for any medical concerns or before making any health-related decisions. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and guests, and it does not represent those of any medical organisation or institution. Coming to you from Pussy HQ. Pussy, 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 vagina, vagina, vagina. I didn't say it enough through the whole podcast and can't wait to speak vaginas next week. Bye.